Hi, welcome to this Zoom research. My name's Sherrie Edgar, I'm a visual artist. This is a Zoom research to find out a little bit more about MHPP, who I've been collaborating with, part of a Coventry Creates partnership. So Feel Connected, Get Creative was launched back in April 2020, and we started working together in mid-April. At the moment, I'm working on an artist film, and it's basis of interpreting a report that was launched back in May 2020 by MHPP. MHPP stands for Mental Health and Productivity Pilot Project. And then the report was called Employee Wellbeing and Mental Health and Productivity in Midlands Firms, the Employer Perspective, a baseline study for mental health and productivity project. So I'm going to begin this Zoom research with Anne and Chitro. If you'd just like to introduce yourself, and then I will be starting a few questions just to find out a little bit more. I'll start with you, Anne.
Okay, hello, it's a real pleasure to be here. I'm Anne Coufopoulos. I'm Associate Dean at Coventry University in the Faculty of Health and Life Sciences, and I hold the portfolio for enterprise and innovation, and I'm the lead researcher for this exciting collaboration between yourself as the visual artist, Coventry University and University of Warwick, and the West Midlands Combined Authority, and Mind as the leads for this this project. Thank you.
Chitro?
Yes, hi there. Hi, my name is Chitro Ghose. I am the Program Operations Manager for MHPP, and I've been working on this program from its onset to set it up, and I manage it on a day-to-day basis, ensuring that all the partners are kind of, linked in, and the program is delivered as per the client's kind of objectives and requirements.
Thank you very much. So I'll begin with a set of questions. My first question is, please can you tell me what the aims and objective of MHPP are?
Do you want to?
Yeah, Chitro?
Want me to do it? Okay. So Mental Health and Productivity Pilot, as the name suggests, is a pilot. So the aim is to understand the relationship, the positive relationship between good mental health and increased productivity. It was identified as, it was evidenced in the Stevenson and Farmer Review of 2017 called Thriving at Work, where the evidence showed that firms were losing up to more than 40 billion a year on kind of in their costs because of poor mental health. So in 2017, as part of the Midlands Engine strategy, Midlands Engine kind of said that they wanted to have a pilot to understand the link, and the program that we're delivering is trying to do that. So the aim is to understand the various impact of the various initiatives that are either out there or the new ones that we are testing out, to see the impact it has on positive positive mental health and its connection to productivity. Obviously, impact in this kind of a kind of non-quantifiable matter such as mental health is quite difficult. So that's what we're trying to understand as well. Kind of the less tangible things, like how does reduction of stigma, for example, or an improved mental health culture within an organization with open conversations, how those things have an impact on productivity as well. So that's the general aim, to kind of understand that relationship.
And I'll just move on to the second question. Can we talk about how MHPP originated and who are the key stakeholders involved?
Yeah. I mean, you can go on. I'll chip in if you want. You can start because you're.
Yes, so I covered a little bit of the origin in my previous response. where Stevenson and Farmer review of 2017, which was a kind of government inquiry into the relationship between mental health and productivity, was conducted by Paul Farmer, CEO of Mind charity. Stephen did the review, and as I said, they found that there was a direct link between poor mental health and poor productivity in terms of absenteeism, presenteeism, as well as spilling over into people's lives. And it was to understand this more that the Midlands Engine announced some funding that was going to be made available in 2019 as part of the Midlands Engine Challenge Fund, and that's when we responded to the invitation to tender, and we kind of won the bid. One of the main reasons why I think we were a very strong contender to that fund is because we have brought together a collaboration of direct collaborators, probably about 10, 12 collaborators, but a wider group as well that comprises academics from HE. We've got mental health charities such as Mind. We've got Public Health England as one of our contributors. We've got individuals from the NHS, and we have a strategic advisory board so people who are not kind of in the delivery, but we have Dame Julie Moore, who was the chief nurse, as its chair. We also have representation from big companies like Jaguar Land Rover and Rand. We have individuals who are experts by experience. Who one of the key people is Stephen Gilbert, who's OBE, and he is a huge champion of mental health as a survivor really of mental health work. He's involved in the program as well. So it is this collaboration which I think is at the core of the pilot. We have brought together a wide group of people who are all very experienced in their roles, in their roles either in mental health or in business, and that's what we're trying to do. Get the whole thing, get a wide group and contribute. And the other kind of important thing about this is that we are getting stakeholders from across the Midlands, so it's East and West Midlands, as well as areas such as the Marches and which is kind of part of the Midlands Engine geography, as it were. So yeah, that's what it is. And one of the other people I forgot to mention, who's also involved, is Sir Norman Lamb, who was he was instrumental in creating the Mental Health Commission, which is part of the Mental Health, which is part of West Midlands Combined Authority, who are a key partner in our program, obviously. So yeah.
Carry on then. Sorry.
Yeah, I think Chitro, she's given a really good overview there. But I think also now the MHPP has been in operation for over a year. You could probably say that the other stakeholders are coming on board are all of the organisations that we're working with, all of the businesses. So although we have a very high level strategic advisory board, that's very much, I think, on the focus of the rigour and the ensuring that the MHPP is doing what it's supposed to do, but and also includes a lot of health, sort of mental health perspectives, but the sort of the bottom up approach. So you've got sort of the top, sort of in any public health, you've got top down and bottom up approaches. The bottom up approach is really a lot of the work that we're engaging with now, in terms of engaging with the local enterprise partnerships, the growth hubs across the East and West Midlands, to bring them on board to say what is it that are your needs, and signposting and working closely with them over the next couple of years. So I think that's quite that's a very sort of a unique aspect of the MHPP. So we are truly sort of doing what a much more progressive model of public health would be doing.
And can I just move on to the next question? Can we just explore what progress has been made on the project to date?
Chitro?
Yeah. So as Anne just said, we are into the second year. We started the program in July last year. So the first year, in terms of the actual delivery, the first year was supposed to have been the strategic research phase. So we had one of our partners, University of Warwick, lead on a large-scale employer survey, and the report of which you mentioned earlier on. So that was conducted towards the latter part of last year, with an aim to get in the region of 1,900 employers, which we did. So that research phase was creating the baseline evidence in terms of what employers feel and do in terms of mental health in the current kind of, well, this is pre-COVID, so in the current, as it was at that point, end of last year, what they do in terms of mental health strategy within their organizations, in terms of their culture within their organizations, trying to understand what more help they might need, do they use any current interventions, etc., etc. So all of that was done across a wide range of employers, small, medium, large, and across the Midlands Engine geography as well. And another aspect of the research phase was to try and understand from public health as well as mental health providers what current provision there is. So trying to understand some of the interventions that are currently being, currently there, that are kind of championed by Public Health England, and what the take-up is, what the cost is and things like that. So we have a very good evidence base in terms of what the current situation is. Again, the caveat is that this was pre-COVID, so things obviously are quite changed, but what the evidence base has done, as a kind of almost as a what should I say, as an additional thing, is that we've created a baseline which is pre-COVID, so we can actually see how much change has happened in employers kind of post-COVID. So in terms of the evidence, the report from the survey is something which you've seen already. The rest of the research is all being combined as we speak, collated as we speak, and there will be a report from the full research phase, soon-ish. What has also happened is, based on the research and also kind of pre-research work, the University of Warwick again started developing proposals for interventions, which will be piloted across Midlands Engine employers starting kind of towards the latter part of this year. So originally we were going to do 3 pilots, looking at individual people in the workforce who were sub-threshold mental health conditions, but were currently at work. There was also going to be the second pilot was going to be about workforce who were working but with diagnosed mental health conditions, and the third one was going to be people who are diagnosed with mental health conditions but are off work and would have to return to work. Now with COVID, they've been combined slightly, so we're looking at obviously the return to work has obviously taken a different shape because people are returning to work in a different kind of context, as it were. But we're looking at individuals with sub-threshold and diagnosed mental health conditions as a single pilot. So we're looking at 2 pilots which will be testing out interventions, kind of like I said, towards the latter part of this year, and they're kind of in the recruitment phase at the moment, going through ethics and all that. The other part of the program is to kind of roll out existing interventions such as Every Mind Matters, mental health first aid, This Is Me, which is a West Midlands kind of initiative at the moment, as well as bespoke courses that the university partners have developed for mental health and workplace. And those are also being, well, they're already there in the marketplace, but we are creating a communication strategy and an engagement strategy with the help of our LEPs and the local enterprise partnerships, growth hubs, and councils to kind of roll that out to a wider audience. So that's happening as well. Obviously, we are having to rethink how the engagement works, because in kind of, it's post-COVID, well, during COVID. So yeah, but that's all the work that's happening. We've kind of, we've got targets to achieve at the end of 2 years, and we're kind of progressing with that. So that's all the work that's happening, has happened as of now, as of today, yeah.
The emphasis of mental well-being, health and well-being is even more so there now, because
absolutely, yeah.
You've got a massive springboard to launch this even more, because our employers now doing mental health and well-being check-in on their employees now. What, are they implementing in their workplace to make sure that they're returning back to work safely?
Yeah.
My next question is, how will the project engage with the workplaces in the East and West Midlands in the workplace for mental health and wellbeing? I know you've mentioned some further projects that will be launching towards the latter part of this year. Is there any ideas? Because I know you're saying post-COVID the strategy will change a little bit.
Well, we've got well, I think so. We've got the we've currently so Chitro's explained about the University of Warwick. They're leading some particular interventions, which are following on from our first big piece of the study, the employment study that you've been referring to. And we're currently now in this sort of implementation phase. So we've got in the West Midlands, there's where Coventry University are leading a particular one around mental health literacy, a whole package around that area, which is including those aspects that Chitro's just mentioned about Every Mind Matters. And we've got Thrive at Work and different components of that. Mental health first aid, which initially was face-to-face, but there is online training. So we're already looking at some of the well-established programs and out there as well. And we're working in partnership for this particular package with the University of Derby and the University of Lincoln, and they're almost mirroring to some extent what we're doing in the West Midlands area. But at the same time, recognising that one size doesn't fit all. So we've got to have their own Derby and Lincoln perspective, and they've got their own really strong linkages and research strengths. So we work as we've got this really big oversight of all of the strategic advisory board and the project steering group, but then we've got these work packages which have got their own smaller partnerships operating, so it's that real sort of collaboration. But particularly for this intervention phase in the work package that Coventry's leading, it's with Derby and Lincoln. So we're at the moment just establishing our protocol really about how we're going to work and what we're going to do. Although we've got some established areas that we're looking at, particularly around engaging with the businesses and ensuring that they get rooted to the right level of support that they want and that they require. So we've got it's quite an agile piece. It's an agile project as well, and Chitro does a brilliant job of project managing everything and everybody in it, because you can imagine the complexity. But at the same time, it's got to make sure that it's diverse and embraces, sort of the challenges that the East and the West Midlands are facing in response to the recovery period now with COVID, because we are looking at people going back to work. We've just had the change in the 1 metre rule, and there may be, as Chitro was saying before, it was pre-COVID, we've got a baseline, but actually there's probably a lot of other challenges now, that are facing people, anxiety, going back to work. And that could be physical anxiety of actually, I'm worrying about getting COVID, but also the psychological, that people have been in a lockdown phase for months. So we've now got to move people out of that, and some people are perhaps more ready than others. So I think so our aim really now is to ensure that we're sort of working with the businesses all across the region, but tapping into those really strong links that the Coventry and Warwickshire, across the East Midlands, the Black Country, Greater Birmingham, all of those local enterprise partnerships, because they're very strong, those in the Midlands. I'm working with those to make sure that they feed into whatever we design. So I think it's iterative as well. As you know, we've got some established programs there that we're looking at, but we're also trying to develop and be responsive to what's needed.
And just to move on to my next question, what will the outputs of the MHPP be? You've probably touched on that again a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of the outputs, we will, because it's a pilot, it's kind of output driven, but we are also mindful that the kind of the learning, so things like lessons learned, drivers, barriers, that kind of a thing will be a part of the output as well, also, although they wouldn't be identified as output. So the learning from the pilot, given that that's what a pilot does, is probably as much or even more significant than the outputs that we're trying to achieve. So the outputs would be, you know, the pilot data that comes out from the pilot interventions, which we'll be looking at, you know, I think it'll be in the region of about 50 companies, maybe a bit less, who will kind of participate in those interventions. Obviously, that data will be one of the outputs that kind of come out of this program. We also have quite large target numbers that we've said we will try and achieve for existing programs. So Thrive at Work, which is a program that's currently West Midlands focused, because that's where it originated, is going to go out to kind of the wider Midlands Engine region, and same with kind of mental health at work. Well, mental health at work is a commitment which is kind of UK wide, but you know, between those, we're saying we will try to engage close to 1,700 employers. We have also said that Every Mind Matters, which is a national project program at the moment that's run by PHE, we will try to get, you know, about 1 million individuals signed up to that by the end of this program. We've got similar similar as in we've got kind of targets for, you know, mental health at work, mental health first aid, for example. We've said that, you know, we'd look at about 40,000 or a bit more employees to have signed up to that. Now, again, you know, we as a collaboration know that those are targets which we will try to achieve, but to be honest, it is the learning that we will do as part of that which will be a, you know, like I say, it's not an output, but you know, that will be a finding of the pilot. So somewhere down the line, if we realize that those numbers are not being met, it will be a question of why and what are the barriers that are stopping people from meeting those targets, and what initiatives could take their place, or how could the initiatives be changed, for example, or edited, or whatever. The qualitative learning is very, very significant to what we're trying to achieve at the end of the pilot.
And just the final question, how will this information be shared with different audiences after the project has been completed?
I'll touch on it briefly, and then Anne, if you want to just kind of, you know, elaborate. So we have an MHPP website, which at the moment is a tool where we will drive employers to provide us with the information and help us kind of, you know, help us to meet the objective of the program. But that is going to be one of our key kind of tools of communication to a wider audience. We're trying to create a brand. You have seen the website, haven't you? It's kind of, you know, it's being, we're creating the brand whereby we're trying to have it as a fun brand. I don't know whether that's the right word, but a brand that's kind of not just, you know, like a staid website which gives you information. We're hoping that the website is going to become more user friendly, where people can come to it to get their information. That's obviously just the kind of the reactive side of things, or is it the reactive or the, I mean, we have social media presence, which we're going to be pushing through as well. And one of the key ways to kind of communicate about the program, not just whilst we're doing it, but once it's finished as well, to build the legacy. It's the engagement with stakeholders. It's making sure that we keep our stakeholders on board, be they be our strategic advisors, they might be the employers, they might be the people who are partnering, but we're making sure that we're taking everyone with us, so that it's not just, oh, a pilot's been done and here are the findings, here's how we communicate it, but they're coming along. So it's co-creation. We're taking everyone on board, so that the communication is not just the findings, but the journey of how we got there as well. So yes, that's my kind of response to that, but I'll let Anne.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to follow on from that, in the sense that in terms of sort of a wider dissemination strategy, it's thinking about how, so we have got the website as the main vehicle at the moment, but I think something like the Coventry Creates has really brought us an opportunity to see, and I've never thought about this before, and I've been thinking about this in my own reflections for the project, is that it's and working with you, Sherrie, has shown me that you can present, I mean, I've often thought about different ways to present findings and meanings and objectives, and so that visual and that through that artistic output and that artistic medium, I think, is really important, because you're perhaps reaching other audiences that you wouldn't normally reach through a website. And I think it was Stephen Gilbert at our SAB meeting was really stuck the thumbs up for when I said, as a survivor of mental health, that we're looking at, and it was something that came up around, how are we disseminating, how are we getting the message out there. So I think having different forms at different mediums to share our findings along the way, as well, and not to necessarily just be seen as academic. Because this is a real, there's a significant investment in this project, and there's significant investment in not only finance, but intelligence, commitment of organisations. So we need to find a way of ensuring that we have a diverse medium approach to disseminating those findings. So hopefully this is the start of something as that we can continue, Sherrie, because you've opened my eyes to different mediums, and particularly like things like dance. And I didn't realise how, I mean, I did in one way, but in a very superficial way, I think, and it still is that, but sort of, and how you can, we live in a whole world of social media now, and younger people, what do they, I mean, I'm older, so I'm thinking, what would be the best mediums around younger people, and then older people, what's the, sort of there's many, people who are in the third generation of working, that old sort of that older workforce, and all of those in between. So I think that's something as well that we will look at as part of a steering group for each particular project. When so it's great to have a diverse sort of collaborative approach to the dissemination of the findings.
I couldn't agree more. We're living in a visual culture now, so to interpretate and embody expression through different mediums, as you said, would be reaching out to new audiences, and a way of how we emotionally and we're physically bearing our mental and health well-being, so in all different disciplines. So yeah, definitely that's something we can look to doing more in the future. But I think our Zoom research is coming to an end now, so I'd like to thank everybody for listening, and thank you, Chitro, for answering my questions, and Anne for your time as well. It's been a wonderful opportunity. I just hope that everybody's watching can find out a little bit more about MHPP and the work they're doing with mental health and productivity and their pilot programme. So we'll end it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherrie.